Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is so wonderful to see you. This is such a special Sabbath. It's the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Cantor. I call this the Shabbat for those hardcore daveners who can't get enough prayer. And so they're here on Rosh Hashanah. They're here on the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They're here for Yom Kippur. Or it could be the hardcore sinners. Maybe we're the ones who just need... I'm kidding, of course. That's not the case at all. But thank you, Liav. Hey, it's great to see you all here on our WISE campus. And it's great to see you all joining us. I can't see you, but I'm hoping you can see me, those of you who are joining us online from all over the country and all over the world. We found out on Rosh Hashanah, we had people joining us from Israel, all over Europe, Malaysia. Maybe it was the same person. They just kept bouncing about.
I got a nice message from a young man in Miami looking for a service who joined us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome. And do us a favor. If you're online joining us right now, you can put in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube. Tell us where you're joining from, because we want to be able to welcome you and we want to be able to know where you're joining us from. We're going to begin with a melody that's so familiar to us at this time of the year, and it comes from Hashivenu, this beautiful reminder that if we return to God, God is ready to embrace us in our return. It's time to return again.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha. Return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to where you are. Return to what you are. Born and reborn, and return again. Return again. Return to the land of your soul.
Our candle lighting can be found on page 2. She is going to come forward and light our Shabbat candles. And those of you joining from home, we invite you to light along with us as we bring in the joy of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We continue with a special psalm just for Shabbat, page 22. Zameru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, yiram bayamum lo, tevel v'yoshveva, neharot imcha uchav yachad harim yiranenu, lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, lishpot tevel b'tzedek, be'amim b'meisharim, yiram hayamum lo, tevel quick quiz. Who can find a word in that prayer associated to the holidays? Anyone hear something? Starts with a shin. Close. We heard that psalm is about the music of the temple and of our tradition, and one of the oldest instruments that we know of in our tradition is the shofar. Thank you. So it's beautiful to see that reference. Also, there was a word yoshveh. Is that a reference to you?
So
close.
Very close. Very close. I've been called worse, and I've been called better too. What a beautiful melody. Who's the composer of that? I like that one.
That's Cantor Ari Priven from B'nai Jeshurun in Manhattan, where I used to go when I was a student, Upper West Side. Shout out Rabbi Seri. And I think that he is from Argentina. So it's a melody of Latin America Jewry.
Beautiful. We're going to continue with Lecha Dodi. You can find it on page 20. We welcome the Sabbath Bride.
Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Likrat Kala, ya la 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 Penei Shabbat, Penei Shabbat Nekabela, ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Likrat Kala, ya la 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 Penei Shabbat. Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmianu el hamiyuchad, Adonai Shema echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'lithilas. Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Likrat Kala, ya la 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 Penei Shabbat, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem Nesucham, Sof Ma'aseh B'machshava Techila, Ya Elai Elai, Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, Ya la 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 Likrat Kala, Ya la 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 Penei Shabbat, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam besimcha u'betzola, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala, Boi chala, Ya Elai Elai, Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, Ya la 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 Likrat Kala, Ya la 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 Penei Shabbat, Penei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 28, Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Baruch ad Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
I've always been so struck each and every Shabbat by the idea that all around the world, Jews are saying these same words. And I would say if there's sort of one, well, not only one, but one of the things I have found powerful in this COVID age, in these, as services more and more went digital, was you could literally sort of watch the wave of services, maybe beginning in Israel and then the East Coast and then the Midwest and then to here. And there was something really powerful, that sort of wave of connection as the words were sung from time zone to time zone. And it was just this really visual and maybe oral reminder of our oneness that we sing about as we turn to the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Shem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed. And you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates. And you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
So we sing in the V'ahavta, we pray each day to teach these words diligently to our children. And so I see our guest of honor maybe running over there, but they're going to come on up. Hera and Jeff are going to bring their daughter, Emily, and big brother, Jake. They take it seriously to teach it diligently to their children, as Jake is a graduate of what is now Aaron Milken Center, and Emily has just started. And as they said that, a couple of years ago, this might have happened a little bit before, but like many of you, I'm looking out and I know many of you watching at home have had to postpone smachot, joyous celebrations. And so what a treat, maybe especially Shabbat Shuvah, to bring one. And I'm going to only put on my mask because these are some little folks and I want to keep them protected. So Emily, you are the woman of the hour right now. And we are going to name you. You already have a name, so don't worry, we're not taking it away. Everyone's still going to call you Emily, but we hope that in about 10 and a half years, give or take, you'll come up on the bima, maybe here, maybe in there, and then you'll be called by this name, which is the name that we'll call you when we bring you to Torah. And your name is special. Your name is going to be Miriam Bat Yitzhak Daniel. Miriam, who was a prophetess in our tradition, strong woman in her own right, but you're named for another strong woman, for your mom's Aunt Anna. That's your middle name too, exactly. And something that I thought was so sweet when you shared with me that Anna's Hebrew name was Shabbat Shuvah. Hebrew birthday was Shabbat Shuvah. And so while the date was picked mostly on purpose and a little accidentally, there's that beautiful connection. And Hera, you also told me about how she was just this like deep thinker and spiritual, but also just the cool one, that you could bring any topic to her. And so we hope you are also a deep thinker and spiritual and just want to talk to everyone about everything. And that she cared deeply about the past and about memory, which is so much of what this day and these holy days are about. And so we're going to give you this name here. You ready? Okay. Okay, ready? Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu kayem et hayalda hazot le'viha ule'imah ve'yikareh Shema be'Yisrael Miriam bat Yitzhak Daniel. Zot hakatana gedola tiyeh. Our kishem shenechnasa labrit kain tikanes leTorah ulechuppah ulemaasim tovim. And we say, Emily, God and God of our ancestors, you know some of these words from school now, sustain you through your parents and your big brothers and your grandparents who are here through their loving care. May your name bring you lots of joy, and may it inspire you to go out and do good things in the world, maybe be a prophetess or a drummer, which Miriam also was in your own right. May your parents and your big brother rejoice in the growth of your body and your soul. And we say that just as they brought you here today to this community, to this covenant, may they raise you always with Torah, with a love of learning and Jewish values. Chuppah, a life guided by loving relationships, which you'll learn first at home with your parents and your brother and your grandparents. You make yourself comfortable. We're all good. And ma'asim tovim, that you go out there in the world and do kind things, just like we hope you're learning to do with Erica and Melissa and Lachelle. We know you are. And together we say, Amen. Cantor, do we have a little celebration?
Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov. Yeilanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael. Yeilanu, yeilanu, ulecho Yisrael. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
To you and to us. We're so blessed. We are so blessed.
So we turn, one of the things that I think about actually each time I name a child, especially the freedom that is, the celebration and the joy, but also the knowledge of the gift it is to families, but also really, truly to whole communities.
I have to say, we weren't able to do Ruby's naming here because it was the Friday that the world shut down last March. So it's making me think maybe we should find a Shabbat to do it. Yeah,
I think so.
Thanks, Emily.
We've postponed weddings. We've postponed everything. So sure. And so in celebration of that freedom and that gift of freedom, sing the song of men and women join in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, a song we pray of peace. Mi chamocha on page 40.
כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, קהל ישראל.
We offer a prayer for healing. It can be found on page 253, and I want to invite you to think of someone in your life who is in need of healing, healing of the body, healing of the mind, or healing of the spirit. Those of you joining online, feel free to put the names of those that you're praying for in the chat. I just want to invite you, those of you who are here and at home as well, make sure to reach out to those people that you're thinking of and let them know that you're praying for them. And Misha Berach L'Refuah is also a reminder not to take our own health for granted, to take care of ourselves. Make sure as you're able to get your vaccines, make sure as you're able to do all the things you can to take care of yourself so that you can be healthy and we can keep those around us healthy as well. Misha Berach L'Refuah.
שבירך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imoteinu Mekor Abracha Avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Our Amidah prayer begins on page 48. Traditionally, on Erev Shabbat, we say the Amidah prayer silently. I want to invite you to be inspired by the prayers in the prayer book, and you'll notice throughout the prayers of the Amidah from time to time and place to place, you'll see a little notation that reminds you that because it's Shabbat Shuvah, that special Sabbath between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there's some additional words that get added. After you've had an opportunity to pray the words of the prayer book, please add words of your own heart. I'll invite you all, as you're able to, please rise, and those of you at home, please rise as well. Let's take a few moments to give thanks and praise to God for the many blessings in our lives and to ask God for the most important things for ourselves and our world.
Prayer for peace with those special inserts for Shabbat Shuvah, page 60.
Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amecha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol ha-shalom betov beinecho levarech et am ha-Yisrael bechol et uvchol shah bishlomecha. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום, ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, ברכה ושלום ניזכר וניכתב לפניך. ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
Here is a New York story. There is a particular turn on the Long Island Expressway, somewhere between Manhattan and Rockville Center, New York, where my paternal grandparents lived. And I remember when visiting them that each time we would round that bend, my father would say, "This is where I was when I heard Kennedy had been shot." I don't remember where he was driving that day or why, but he certainly did. He could remember it, clear as day. Seems like each generation has a day like that. Maybe it was D-Day or the moon landing, these moments of communal celebration. Or maybe it was the Kennedy assassination or Dr. King's. Perhaps you remember where you were when the Challenger exploded, those millions of school children excitedly watching. Those are moments of collective trauma. And I would bet that if not all, then almost all of you sitting here and you watching at home remember where you were 20 years ago tomorrow. I'm told it was early here, so maybe you were just waking up or sitting down to your morning coffee, getting kids ready for school or getting ready for work. Maybe you were already on the 405. Lest there be any doubt, Rabbi Yoshi, I am a born and bred New Yorker. Yet my September 11th story is not a New York story. Mine is a story of melted Magnum ice cream cones held in shaking hands. It is a story of barely connected TV sets that may or may not have had cable, wheeled into a lecture hall when the dean of our program realized class might not happen that afternoon. It is a story of lines down the street with ordinary Israelis trying to donate blood. And most of all, for me, it is a story of security guard after security guard after security guard, meant to protect against the suicide bombers of the Second Intifada, looking at me with tears in their eyes when they saw my New York ID. "I'm so sorry," they said. "I'm so sorry," said the grocery checkout clerk. "We understand," said the bank teller. "We are with you," said the maintenance staff. My September 11th story is a story of Jerusalem, of being 6,000 miles away from home, of our own weekly terror bombings and sirens piercing the night. But it is not a New York story. The poet Yehuda Amichai wrote, "I wasn't one of the 6 million who died in the Shoah. I wasn't even among the survivors. And I wasn't one of the 600,000 who went out of Egypt. I came to the promised land by sea. No, I was not in that number, though I still have the fire and the smoke within me, pillars of fire and pillars of smoke that guide me by night and by day." So mine isn't a New York story, not the story of my former beloved congregant whose 1-year-old took his first steps on the day his father perished in the Twin Towers. Nor is it the story of the beloved neighborhood firefighter and security guard at Rodef Sholom who ran into the inferno. It is not even the story of a friend who now lives again in Los Angeles in her very first week of teaching in New York, who stayed hours and hours after the school day ended, waiting for parents who walked miles covered in ashes from the burning buildings. It's strange when your story is not the story of your city. But as a New Yorker, as an American, it is my story, it's our story. It is our collective trauma and our collective memory. So we Jews, we are experienced in collective trauma just as we are, thank God, experienced in collective joy. But truly, more than anything, we excel at collective memory. It is at the heart of the Passover Seder. It is embedded throughout Torah, and it is ultimately a building block of the Yom Kippur experience for which we will gather beginning Wednesday night. Last Shabbat, we read the words we will read again on Yom Kippur. Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem, you all stand together this day, with it's a reminder that all of us are included, whether we were there in that moment or came into being generations and millennia later. Collective memory is what shapes us and what we will use to shape our children and their children's children. We still, as Amichai writes, have the fire and the smoke within us, pillars of fire and pillars of smoke that guide us by night and by day. So the very first question asked in the Torah by humans is from Cain, who asks, Hashomer anochi ani. Hashomer achi anochi, am I my brother's keeper? And I've heard it taught that the rest of Torah, perhaps the rest of all of Jewish tradition and history and text, is an answer to that question, a resounding yes. On Wednesday night, when we rise for the first time for the Vidui, the confessional service of Yom Kippur, we recite our litany not in the first person singular, but the first person plural. We have sinned, we have made mistakes, we have gone astray. Yom Kippur, the holiest day on our calendar is a statement over and over of collective responsibility. So too were those days after 9/11, as blood banks filled and fire stations were inundated with food. We understood that we were all in it together, that we were responsible for one another, not just for our wrongdoing, but for our care. As Jews, our collective identity is forged in the narrowness of Egypt and in the responsibilities of freedom. Over and over again, our Torah demands not just collective responsibility and not just collective memory, but collective empathy. Remember the stranger, protect the stranger, love the stranger. For you were strangers in Egypt. Collective empathy is the fire and the smoke within us, the pillars of fire and pillars of smoke that guide us by day and by night. Much ink has been and will continue to be spilled on the political ramifications of the 9/11 attacks, from the war in Afghanistan to privacy concerns and beyond. But that's not what I remember. What I remember from the days and weeks after 9/11, both on the streets of Jerusalem and in my beloved New York, to which I returned for a visit just a few months after, not taking my shoes off at the airport or some feeling of increased surveillance. What I remember and what my friends all talk about was the kindness in a city whose reputation, unfairly, I should say, but whose reputation is not built on it. I remember the patience. There was suddenly this willingness to wait just a bit longer, to even let someone ahead of you in line. And I remember that empathy, the way we New Yorkers looked at each other with a certain softness. I remember the quiet, the way the bustling pace seemed to slow, just enough for us to see each other as we gathered around the posters of the missing, still hanging from every available surface. I'm told that this gentleness was felt around the country. Perhaps it was felt briefly around the world. Collective empathy. Be kind to the stranger, for you were a stranger. Maybe you are one today. But I'm kind of wondering where it went. I don't see it in the throes of this global pandemic where we seem to have lost our sense of collective responsibility. We don't seem to see it much in this polarized civil society where we've lost a sense of collective responsibility. I don't see it often on the 405 or even in our carpool line. We've lost our collective patience, our collective softness. Tonight begins Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return. This Shabbat, as Rabbi Yoshi said at the beginning, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's dedicated to the work of Tshuva, of returning to relationships, to repairing damage, to turning towards our best selves. So tomorrow we mark this 20th yahrzeit. The articles have already started, the political analyses, the personal memoirs, the look-backs, and what-ifs. But our tradition teaches that this day, this Shabbat, this moment, these holy days are the start of a new story, one based in collective memory and reaching towards a collective vision. And so my prayer for us tonight and tomorrow and beyond is that we write and rewrite again a story of collective responsibility, a story of collective empathy, of loving and remembering and caring for the stranger, of loving and remembering and caring for our neighbors, of loving and remembering and caring for ourselves. Because we Jews, we Americans, we still have the fire and the smoke within us, pillars of fire and pillars of smoke that guide us by night and by day. Let them guide us then to empathy, to kindness, and to caring. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. So in maybe that spirit of collective responsibility and collective care and collective vision, we turn to a prayer for our country. On the bottom of page 258, please join me and join me at home. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
Avinu Shabashamayim, Zur Yisrael v'goalo, Barich et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Ge'ulatenu.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Avinu Shabashamayim, Zur Yisrael v'goalo. Amen. Salah. Amen. Salah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rabbi Sari, for your teaching and your connection that you helped us make to this moment. There are heavy days that we navigate as Jews and as Americans, and here on the eve of the 20th anniversary of a national trauma, we feel that heaviness, and Yom Kippur is approaching, and there's certainly a heaviness to that as well as we look inward and we think about the ways that we have fallen short, and we think about the person that we want to be, and we compare that to the person that sometimes we were in the year that has passed. There's a heaviness to that, but there's also moments of joy, and our tradition teaches that Shabbat hi milizok. We're not supposed to cry out too much on Shabbat. And so even though this Shabbat coincides with 9/11, we still have to find those moments of joy. And Emily really helped share one of those with us. So I don't know if she's up for grape juice, but it is grape juice, right? Cantor, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's grape juice. So we're going to make Kiddush on page 5. And I just want to see if any of you online, you want to put in maybe a simcha. You can add it to the chat. There might be a birthday or an anniversary. Any birthdays here this evening? Anyone celebrating a birthday this week? Don't be shy. Yeah. How about anniversary? Anniversary. Rabbi Ron Stern, Becky Sobel Stern. How many? You're talking about your anniversary to each other? Yeah, how many years? 36. Will you please stand up? That's twice high and a really good start. And Emily's coming up with Jake, and they're going to help us with Kiddush. I want to invite everybody to rise in solidarity with those people who have joyous moments. Page 5, Kiddush.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri agafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ava ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemase, v'reishit, ki hu yom techila, למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים, כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך, באהבה ורצון, הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדיש השבת לחיים.
Wow, that is really wonderful. I'll tell you what, can we do this every week, Emily? Just come back every Friday. We'll do another baby naming. It'll be fantastic. You can stay standing for Aleinu L'Shabeach on page 282, and Max is going to join us and help lead us in the prayer.
Aleinu, Aleinu L'Shabeach, Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol. Aleinu, Aleinu, Aleinu L'Shabeach, Latet Gedula Le'otzer Bereshit, Shelo Asanu, Kegoye Aratzot Velo Samanu, Kemishbechot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chelkeinu Kahem, Vegoraleinu Kechol Chamonam. Aleinu, Aleinu, Aleinu L'Shabeach, Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol. Aleinu, Aleinu, Aleinu L'Shabeach, Latet Gedula Le'otzer Bereshit, Shelo Asanu, Kegoye Aratzot Velo Samanu, Kemishbechot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chelkeinu Kahem, Vegoraleinu Kechol Chamonam. Aleinu, Aleinu L'Shabeach, Aleinu L'Shabeach La'adon HaKol. Aleinu, Aleinu, Aleinu L'Shabeach, Latet Gedula Le'otzer Bereshit, Shelo Asanu, Kegoye Aratzot Velo Samanu, Kemishbechot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chelkeinu Kahem, Vegoraleinu Kechol Chamonam.
We'll invite you to be seated. Yeah, you can have some more. I often actually think about people who are mourning a private loss in the midst of public mourning, and so we'll have a chance in a few moments to sort of turn to our own memories for Kaddish, and we'll ask mourners to rise, but I wanted to offer these words called a Kaddish for 9/11 after Charles Reznikoff. For those who ran for lives, who left their shoes behind and counted the floors on the stairwells of smoke, for those who boarded the subway and sat in the dark, those who shopped at the store, who walked on the way or biked on the path, who looked up from the street at the sound of glass, who stood in the breach when the paper rained down for them and for theirs. In that place and in every place where they scattered, we ask for peace. For those who carried the burden, who searched for the sign, who stood in the wreckage and lifted the stone, who raised up the flag and found purpose in the work, to them and to theirs, we ask for health. For their children and for the children of their children, for all those who touch a name on a panel or hold a photograph to their heart, who miss a seat at the table and the opening door, in this place and in every place, to them and to theirs, we wish you life.
In the rising of the sun, we remember. In the blowing of the wind, we remember. In the opening of buds, we remember. We remember.
In the blueness of the sky, we remember. In the rustling of the leaves,
as we remember,
We remember.
we remember,
We remember.
we remember. If you are in a period of Shiva or Shloshim, the first 7 or 30 days of mourning, I invite you to please rise. And those of you at home, feel free to put the names of your loved ones in the chat. If this is the first year of remembering, please rise. If this Shabbat commemorates the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, please rise. And if it's your custom to stand in solidarity with all of the mourners, and if you'd like also to say Kaddish for some of those who perished on 9/11 20 years ago, I invite you all to please rise and turn to page 294 as we give thanks to God for the gift of life itself. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shema Rabbah,
Amen.
Bialma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shema Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha barichu le'ela ule'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace for us here on earth, for us and all Israel and all humanity. Let us say together, Amen. Please feel free to be seated. I want to just express words of gratitude to Liav and to Jeffrey and to our entire crew. Rabbi Sari, thank you so much for your words of Torah, and Cantor Emma, as always, thank you so much for your leadership.
Rabbi, thank you. You always thank all of us, and we are so blessed that you're our leader. And I don't know if you know this, but Rabbi Yoshi and Rabbi Chasen wrote that We Remember Peace. Was that, how many years ago was that now?
In the wake of the Pittsburgh massacre,
ago.
so it was 2018. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a mazel tov once again to Emily. The invitation is definitely open. You're welcome to come every Friday night.
And thank you, Max, for that beautiful Elenu. We're going to hear lots more from you.
And we're going to close with those same words that conclude our Kaddish prayer. And those words really are a bit of a challenge to God. We call God Oseh Shalom Bimromav. God, you are the one, you make peace in the high places. But then there's the ask. Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. But could you make a little more peace here for us, for all Israel and all humanity? Please join with us in those words of prayer.
Oseh shalom shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'ol kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'ol kol Yisrael
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Gamar
everyone.
Chatima Tova.